let out a yell of surprise as he said, "Oh, hi. Welcome. Welcome to Jonas Wolchers Videotek episode 5. And today we have a special guest. This guest, he has played a really nasty monster. It's called the Shatter from Hellraiser 1 and Hellbound Hellraiser 2. And he was Kinski, a moon-shaped faced monster in Nightbreed. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Jonas. How are you, sir?
I'm fine. It's been a while since we talked to each other, and I think it was 8 years ago.
That just makes me sound very old. That means I was in my 50s.
Yeah.
Only just, but I was in my 50s when we last spoke in that case.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But
What's happened?
yes, a lot of things. I mean, you've done this monster. I'm a monster movie, or
Yes.
Is it a documentary?
It's a drama documentary because it's based on the one-man show with my mate Peter, and we reached the Pelican Crossing near the clock tower in Crouch End. The very nice policewoman who knocked on my door explained they weren't going to be pressing charges. Please, miss, can I play Satan? I never said that. He's lying. So I stopped breathing. That I did called I Am Monsters for the London Horror Festival back at the end of 2019 was when I originally did it.
I see.
And then, of course, we did the pandemic. Then, of course, pandemic happened. And during that, a gentleman named Mitch Harrod, who runs the Soho Horror Festival, was doing an online version of it, and he asked me to do some clips from the show. And I thought, oh yeah, that sounds interesting. And to my shame, I have no idea what happened to the clips. They got tided away somewhere. But it was like, oh, this works. This talking to the camera kind of works. I like this idea. And then I got in touch with the guys from Dark Rift Horror Films, and we kind of sort of went from there.
Yesterday, I actually watched Nightbreed for the third time,
Right.
and I really enjoyed it. I mean, the special effects are incredible.
Yes, I think we had, at the time we were making it, it was the largest number of prosthetic makeups worn by a single cast. I think at the same time there was a Steve Guttenberg film, I can't remember the name of it, that was also being filmed about the same time, and they had perhaps had a larger number of ghosts who were wearing prosthetic makeup. But I think Clive has described Nightbreed as Gone with the Wind with monsters, kind of showing the epic scale of this love story. But yeah, thank you. I'm glad you liked it.
Yes, I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a gem, definitely a gem. And the version I watched was the 20 minutes longer version.
Right.
And that's so much better than the VHS version I had,
Yes.
the previous one.
Yeah, the director's cut. I'm very fond of the director's cut.
Yeah. A lot of explosions.
Yes.
And gunfire.
And gunfire. Yeah. And I think, see, back in those days, they would have used blanks as well.
Well, yeah.
These days, when they're doing guns you'll see the flash, but you don't see the recoil in the actor's hands because they're just putting the little flash on the muzzle at the end of the day. And I think then back in those days, when you're firing blanks, there's an appreciable kick,
Yeah,
which is what you get if you're firing a real bullet.
yeah.
So yeah, I think that's it makes a difference.
And I think Cronenberg really nailed his character in this movie. It has to be his best performance.
Yeah, I mentioned this in the film. I know I didn't get to meet David Cronenberg when I was out of
Yeah,
makeup, but I did get introduced to him very briefly.
yeah,
It was a very nice man, a really interesting man. And I remember he was. I remember being in Pinewood Studios and Peter Atkins, who wrote Hellbound and Hellraiser 3 and Hellraiser 4 and Wishmaster, mate of Clive's, really old friend of Clive's from his school days, part of the original dub company, and just lovely, lovely, lovely Peter. I remember being in the corridor, and he's just saying, "Nick, come here, come here, come here." It's like, okay. He said, "Listen, listen." And there was a closed door,
yeah.
and there was a sound of typing going on behind this closed door. And he said, "It's Nick, that's David. He's typing Naked Lunch." Because he was working on the screenplay for Naked Lunch, apparently, when we were filming Hellraiser. So yeah, that's my memory of David, Mr. Cronenberg.
I remember the first time I watched Hellraiser, and it was not a real convention, but it was a role-playing camp where we played a lot of board games and role-playing games. And in the middle of the night, we watched two different movies. The first one was Hellraiser, which really affected me as a young boy. And then afterwards we watched The Mighty Warrior and the Blind Swordsman, which is an Asian movie. Hellraiser was one of my first, and it became my favorite, one of my favorite horror movies, and comparison to The Exorcist.
Right.
So, and I thought the character, the Chatterer character, is one of the creepiest characters in the movie history.
Sure. Thank you.
He doesn't do much.
Yes, it's very interesting. So the kind of the story about that is, of course, when Clive first talked to me about the part, he'd said, "Chatterer is like the family dog. I was going to be leaping around the set, and that I'd spend a lot of my time crouching." And when we got me into this leather costume, this very tightly fitting leather costume, I couldn't really crouch down. I could, but Clive didn't like the way that the material folded at the knees. It looked too much like a costume.
Yeah.
And for him, it kind of ruined the illusion. And then, of course, once they got the makeup on, I couldn't really see. So, but I think that became part of the Chatterer's strength, because in the second movie, when I did get eyes and was able to run down corridors, oddly enough, I think he lost power. There is something about being so still and not. You talked about this a lot before, with fans in the past, and you cannot negotiate with the Chatterer. You can negotiate with Pinhead.
Yeah.
Kirsty does. She makes a deal. You can't with Chatterer.
No.
He's just going to fuck you up. He is just going to do what he's going to do. And there is something relentless about him. And, you know, and he manages to find you even though he doesn't have eyes
Yeah.
or ears. So how the hell does he know where you are? But somehow he knows. I think that all these things working together.
Yeah.
You just realize he doesn't actually have eyes or ears. So how the hell does he know where you are? But he does. He obviously does. And there's some other sort of sense going on here. So yeah, I think that's possibly one of the reasons why he's so creepy.
Can you tell me about the audition? Did you have any? I mean,
No
think
audition.
no audition.
No, I just met Clive. I met Clive at a party through Simon Bamford, who plays Butterball. Simon and I were at drama school in the same year. We graduated at different times. I was in a group that graduated a term early that basically didn't have summer off. So Simon and I were in the same year 1 and year 2. And then in our third year, rather than having a summer holiday, we were asked if we wanted to work through the summer holiday, so that we actually graduated a few months earlier than the other half of the school. So we had, it was really weird because of that timing. Clive never actually saw me in any of the shows at drama school, but he saw Simon. He saw Simon playing the fool in King Lear.
Wow. Yeah.
And offered Simon a job in the dog company, the fringe company. And yeah, so it was literally just through a party that Simon must have invited me to, and Clive was there, and we just became friends. So when Clive got to get making Hellraiser, and he was very good, he cast all his mates and his cousin as the monsters. That's really how it all happened.
Well, I watched Hellraiser again on much higher quality and on Blu-ray, and I think the cinematography is very good.
That's very interesting. So the cinematographer was a guy called Robin Vigeon, who I believe is still alive. Have you ever heard of a film called The Lion in Winter with Peter O'Toole and Katharine Hepburn?
Maybe.
Yeah, some of your audience may know that it's an iconic film. It's an amazing film. And Robin was the assistant cameraman on that. I discovered the other day when I happened to buy a Blu-ray of it because I love the film Lion in Winter. And Robin was talking about how he got into the business. But he worked with he was part of a crew with an extraordinary cinematographer, the name of whom entirely escapes me, Dougie somebody. But yeah, Robin Vigeon was just brilliant. I mean, there is a moment in the film where Julia is bringing back the first victim.
Would you like a drink?
Oh, no. I'm well over my limit. Yeah, it's funny. But I feel like I've known you for years, you know? What's the matter?
And Robin has it framed and lit so that she's literally standing on the threshold of light and dark.
Yeah.
She's got this kind of stained glass window between the two of them, and the light's coming to that, and the foreground is in darkness. So she's literally hesitating on the edge, between light and dark, and you're not quite sure at that point whether or not she is literally going to take this guy upstairs so she can kill him. I thought it was the touches like that. Yeah, just genius, Robin. Clive was very lucky. He and Chris had worked very hard to make sure they had a great team around them, and they treated Clive with a great deal of respect,
Yeah.
and that really supported him, and just I think that's one of the reasons why the movie looks the way it does, sounds the way it does, and
Yeah.
is everyone pulled together on that movie to make it work.
Have you met Christopher Young?
Christopher Jones, the composer.
Yes.
Sorry. Yes. Lovely man. Absolutely lovely. Yeah, lovely man.
Yeah. I used to play role-playing games to his music, especially the soundtrack of Hellraiser, Hellbound.
Oh, it's interesting, isn't it, about the soundtracks? Because when I came to write comics, Hellraiser comics, or if I ever need to write anything about Hellraiser, all I have to do is put the album on, and Christopher Young's music just takes me there. And met Christopher at a convention in the US, and we did a panel together. Me and Doug Bradley and Simon Bamford and Barbie Wilde and so on. And I was telling this story, and Doug said, well, yeah, whenever he wants to become Pinhead, part of the makeup process was always put the soundtrack on, because that helps him get into Pinhead. I think, that score is so indelibly linked with Hellraiser.
I really love the Hellbound soundtrack. Yeah.
That it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Last year, they brought hell to Earth. Now, they'll take you through hell. Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. Time to play.
I'm thinking of the part 2 of Hellraiser, where the Doctor became one of the. I'm not sure what he is. Is he a Cenobite or?
I think so.
A creature?
Yes. He certainly looks like a Cenobite. I've always assumed he was a Cenobite. Yes.
Yeah. And I think the special effects in part 2, it's way better, because Bob Keane and his team at Imagine, they've improved a lot.
I think, to be honest, it was a lot to do with budget.
Yeah.
They were just as talented when they did Hellraiser. It's just they had more money to spend on Hellbound.
Yeah.
And obviously you got much larger sets, and it was a very different experience doing Hellbound to Hellraiser, because of course we were at a tiny little studio in North London when we did Hellraiser, but we were at Pinewood Studios when we did Hellbound.
Oh.
For terror you have never imagined.
And your suffering will be legendary even in hell.
I still think the most memorable scenes in Hellbound is definitely how he uses the mattress.
Yes.
To one of the victims.
Yes. Well, of course, some people may or may not know that the actor playing the patient who is put on the mattress, who's imagining that he's got the insects crawling all over him and therefore is trying to scratch himself, and Channard hands him the cutthroat razor. Well, the actor is Oliver Smith, and Oliver Smith played the skinless Frank in Hellraiser.
Oh,
So the actor who is under Skinless Frank in Hellraiser, it's Oliver Smith,
okay.
who played that part. And the other moment that's I'm always very fond of, soon after that is, or later, when Chenard is making love to the skinless Julia once she's all wrapped up in bandages.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a moment where you see a hand pulling the dress up at the back. Well, that wasn't Ken Cranham, the actor playing Chenard. That was my hand, and it wasn't the actress. It was one of the makeup guys called John Cormican, who was wearing the back part of the makeup. So it was me and John wearing the dress as well. Come to think of it, yeah. That's how that moment was done.
All right.
Yeah.
You have your own show, Chattering
Yes.
with.
Well, I did have, yes.
You did have.
I did have, yes. I've not done so. Basically, I did Chattering with Nicholas Vince off
Yeah.
my own back, which you were one of the guests. And that was me talking to lots of independent filmmakers.
Yeah.
And then I stopped that after about, I think, 130 shows. And then during lockdown, my manager, Chris Rowe,
Yeah.
he asked me whether or not I'd like to host the Chattering Hour, a new podcast, because he has a lot of really wonderful clients, people like Malcolm McDowell,
Yeah.
Lynn Shay, and Tracy Lords, and etc. Wonderful Julian Sands, and they were quite, obviously during lockdown, people were very happy to chat.
Yeah.
We haven't done one for nearly 2 years now, but they are all, the podcasts and the YouTube are there. We've not done one for so long. I don't know that we're going to be bringing it back. We had talked about bringing it back, but at the moment, I think I'm so busy with other projects.
Yeah.
I haven't really got the time to dedicate to it. But yeah, I've had some fascinating conversations. Really,
Yeah.
some fascinating conversations. But one of my particular they're all my favourites, but Malcolm, Tracy Lords, Lynn Shay particularly, Chris Sarandon. I got to speak to some Julian Sands, dearly departed Julian Sands.
Yeah.
I got to speak to some really, really fascinating people.
I mean, those shows, especially during the pandemic, they really brought people together.
It was really nice, and I think it was the feedback I got from some people was that they really enjoyed chatting to me, which is very flattering. And I think there were some really interesting insights because everyone was so lovely and honest about the business, basically, about the business of acting, because it was mostly actors I spoke to, though Darren Lynn Bousman was one of the directors I spoke to. And I think because Chris knew them very well, and it was Chris who was setting the questions, he came up with the questions, and therefore he knew some stories that perhaps people hadn't heard before, and that people were. Courtney Gaines, I remember, said, "Oh gosh, not actually spoken about this before." So I think there's some real insights where people just felt comfortable and we were just chatting, shooting the breeze. I hesitate to say actor to actor because their careers are so much more impressive than mine. But I do understand the job of acting.
Yeah.
But it was fun. I miss them, but it was a lot of hard work, and I'm writing these days, and I have other things that I'm involved in.
At the edge of town. You know you shouldn't go there, especially after dark.
If you could revisit any character you played in the past, which one would it be and why?
Interesting. Yeah, I saw this when you... I would like... It's kind of a cliche answer, but actually it is the two for Clive in particular. The two aspects of Chatterer. It's the backstory to Chatterer I'm interested in. I wrote... I've written two stories, origin stories for Chatterer, but the most recent one, the one I'm most proud of, is Prayers of Desire.
Yeah.
I would love to revisit that in terms of directing it.
Okay.
And that would be very interesting to me. We could explore that. And the other one would be Kinski.
Wow.
It's a real... It was definitely left. It was Clive in the original screenplay and in the director's cut. It's very open-ended. So the question is, what became of the Nightbreed? I mean, I wrote about it in the comics. I wrote about it in the Nightbreed comics and provided some sort of answer as to what might happen to them. But it's such a big thing. There is so much lore there. I mean, they talk about Hellraiser TV series. They've talked about Nightbreed TV series. And you think, there is so much that you could do with the Nightbreed.
Yes.
But it's such vast things. Yeah, there are so many vast opportunities there. But so if I was to go back, it would probably be Kinski. I could play an older Kinski. That would be fun. It would be fun. You join him 40 years later. That would be interesting. Chatterer, I definitely want to go back and look at the origin story.
Thank you so much for this interview, Nicholas, and we wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Yes, and a peaceful and prosperous 2026. Cheerio, guys. Take care. Bye.
Not this.
I really hope that you enjoyed this episode of Jonas Wolchers Videotek. Soon we will have a new guest, which is a secret from now. And we will reveal the guest in a later show. By then, we wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you for watching. Bye!